Mariah here with Threaded Maple, and in today's tutorial I'd like to show you now how to do a provisional cast on without a crochet hook. Again, a provisional cast on is when you need your cast on stitches to remain live, so later you can pick those up and knit in the other direction. In a previous video we did a tutorial on how to accomplish this task with a crochet hook. But if you're not comfortable with a crochet hook, this might be the method for you. To start this cast on, you will need the circular needle that you will be working your project on, and then you want to get an extra circular cable that you are going to be using to hold the provisional cast-ons on for you to work on later. And unlike the crochet provisional cast on, you're going to start using your working yarn. So you're not going to be using any scrap yarn for this provisional cast on. And you want to make a slip knot and put that directly on your extra circular cable, circular needle cable or cord. And that's going to go on somewhere kind of in the middle of the cable. For the Continental style, you'll be set up holding onto the cable of your other circular needle. And then with the one you're going to knit with, we're going to start this cast on. Start out by yarning over your needle, and then your needle is going to come underneath the circular cable. You're going to grab that yarn counterclockwise and come back forward. Yarn over, go under the cable, grab some yarn, and come back forward. Yarn over, grab some yarn, and bring it forward. And it's important to note that you are doing these motions counterclockwise. And that's going to put stitches on your needle, but also wrapped around the cable of your other circular needle that you will come back to later. For English style, tension the yarn as you normally would, holding the needle in your right hand. You're going to stabilize the cable with your left hand. You're still going to do that first yarn over, or essentially you're going to have the yarn just in front of your needle. The needle is then coming down and it's going to travel underneath the cable. You're going to wrap your yarn around the needle and now bring the needle forward in front of the cable. You're going to yarn over. The needle comes down underneath the cable. Wrap the yarn around and bring that forward. The other way to think about this is that the cable is coming to lay, you're wrapping the cable around the needle clockwise. Wrap your yarn around counterclockwise and then remove the cable. Yarn over counterclockwise. Wrap the cable around the needle clockwise. Wrap the yarn around counterclockwise and remove the cable from the needle. So when you're using this cast on, your pattern is going to tell you whether to cast on an even or an odd number of stitches. And to make this a little bit easier, if you are being asked to cast on an even number of stitches, you're going to start with your yarn over. So you yarn over under the cable, grab some yarn, bring it forward. Yarn over under the cable, grab some yarn, bring it forward. So that's going to make sure that you have an even number of stitches, because you also want to make sure that you always end with going under the cable and grabbing some yarn. You don't want to end the cast on with a yarn over, it just makes it a little tricky. So if you have an uneven number of cast on stitches, you can actually start with going under the cable. So don't do your yarn over, just go under the cable, grab some yarn and pull it forward, then yarn over. That way, when you finish casting on, you do your yarn over, and the last thing you do is going under the cable and pulling that yarn through. And that's going to give you an uneven number of stitches for your cast on. As you're working across your needle in one direction, you'll notice on the extra interchangeable cord that the slip knot is still hanging out down there. This doesn't count as one of your provisional cast on stitches, and later when we start to work in the other direction, we will be removing that slip knot. And one final trick, if you happen to not have that spare circular needle cord available, you can also do this on some stitch saver cord. It's going to be the same process where you put that slip knot on the stitch saver cord somewhere in the middle, and then you're going to start casting on the same way we use the extra interchangeable needle cable or cord, only you're going to be doing it on the stitch saver. So as before, if you have an even number, you're going to do that yarn over first. You're going to go under the stitch saver, wrap your yarn around, bring that yarn to the front of the stitch saver. Yarn over, go under, grab that yarn, bring it through, and you continue the exact same process as before, only now, again, all the stitches are going to be wrapped around your stitch saver. And so here you can see I've knit a few rounds and I'm ready to bind off. And so here I've bound off my stitches and I'm ready to put the stitches from my stitch saver tubing onto my needle. So you're going to just stick your needle tip into one end and slide those stitches onto your needle. Once the stitches are now on my cord, I can pop that stitch saver off. And now we're ready to start knitting in the other direction. And remember to remove that slip knot. And remember that every other stitch here is going to be mounted backwards. So you'll just have to knit those through the back loop just like we did before. And so that's how you can do a provisional cast on without a crochet hook. If you would like to check out our tutorial on how to do a provisional cast on with a crochet hook, you can check that video out here. And I hope that this was helpful. If you have any other questions, please let us know in the comments.